Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos and more Vessel of Hated talk. Today we have a big one. It's time now to talk about the power level of the classes compared to one another. Now that we're a good week or so into the season and we actually have seen a lot of the new content, people are now in the highest level of content. That's Torment level 4 for your world tier, but also most importantly in terms of hardest content and proving power compared to one another, that would be the pit clears and the tiers that's being achieved. The goal apparently is to balance the game around tier 100 pits. That should be like the top of the top for what's expected. The reality has turned out a little bit different, at least after this first week. One class, and you know what I'm going to talk about, is well overperforming that tier 100 plan, but every other class is actually about on track to say that's a fair estimation, to the point where, weirdly, and I didn't expect to say this, the balance for the season is really good, except for one class. So at the top of the pack, let's just get it out of the way, is obviously Spiritborn. We'll talk about the real details of that and compare it to everything, but they're currently clearing like tier 140 plus, which is unbelievable, but it doesn't seem like it's intended that it's this crazy. Like obviously they were going to make Spiritborn, the new thing, the DLC thing, the strongest to make it popular because DLC, but it's performing beyond their expectations. That makes complete sense because they can quash bugs in the PTR, but all we had this time for Spiritborn was the period where we were playing in the review build, which was a small margin of players reporting everything they could. But yeah, compared to like the full player base testing something, it's not the same. So I'm not surprised big bugs have got through. It seems like there are multiple, but there is one big one. So we may actually see Spiritborn be hotfixed and changed in the near future. We'll see. Now, in terms of the 6 classes and their power levels ranked against each other, how they're performing in the endgame and pit levels specifically, we have a surprising story of balance. We have 3 categories here. So third place is actually going to be 4 classes, second place will be just 1 class, and first place, Spiritborn, will be 1 class. So let's talk about the bottom of the tier, the third place ranking, where things are actually pretty good. We have Barbarian, Druid, Rogue, and Necromancer, all reasonably within the same relevant power level, at least in one build, if not multiple. Things are weird, and I'm not saying that it's like the perfect or best state, but despite the fact there's like 3 people playing Barbarian and then 3 people playing Druid, their power levels, their clears, have been proven to be pretty much equal to what we're seeing with Rogue and Necromancer. Take Barbarian. I have been scouring the internet for Barbarian footage of current Torment 4 of anything I could find in terms of pit clears. There is only one creator who has any footage of this that I've been able to find, and that is this hero, Dalcora, who has been playing Barbarian, and in this footage is clearing a pit tier 90. And of course, he's using the new Mighty Throw build. Now, I'm no Barbarian main, but it does look a bit funky. In some of these clips and where he's dealing with a boss, he's kind of pressing the boss against a pillar, waiting for seemingly some kind of proc to happen that does significantly more damage than anything else they're doing. Overall, the clears are just barely possible, 30 seconds, a minute left in the clear. But to say that we're doing, say, tier 90s, just below that 100 tier expectation for long term, that is really good. And for Barbarian that's been really pushed to the side and forgotten about, I think this is absolutely phenomenal. So if you're looking to check out any Barbarian stuff right now, I would recommend Dalcora. But in regards to Druid, man, finding footage is hard because there's not many of them. The only person I was able to find of any relevant footage right now, I have their channel name on screen right now, but what you're looking at is a tier 91 being defeated by a Druid playing Shred. However, disclaimer, this footage is from the Eternal version rather than, say, Season 6 in specific. But the thing is, Season 6 doesn't actually provide any power right now, so there's nothing actually weaker about Eternal Realms right now, so it's a fair showing. In any case, Shred. I was thinking that pure landslide would be about their best option after they gutted the way that the functionality between lightning and, say, landslide earthquake stuff actually worked, so we weren't sure how things would turn out. Classic builds have turned out to be pretty reasonable. Pulverize, Shred, these have turned out to be really strong showings. And while obviously this is a clear at tier 91 that just barely was successful, it's still a successful clear. Barbarian is easily able to do the same thing at tier 91 with the right setting and RNG. And this is pretty much what I'm going to say for Rogue and Necromancer as well. Scouring the internet for Rogue footage is apparently impossible right now. I haven't found like definitive proof, but I have seen a lot of discussion about the upper end of Rogue, and it is of course tied to Dance of Knives, which is the build that I'm working on myself. With an optimal setting and specifically running Perdition, you know, the new unique helm that increases your damage when you're dealing with a demon. If you fish for the right setup, you can eventually get a pit that has a final boss that's a demon, get the max DPS, and yes, tier 90s are possible. Much like what we're seeing for Necromancer, which to my surprise is minion based. The Ring of Mendel is performing incredibly, but what's awesome is that they're using Soul Rift, you know, the new ultimate skill added with the DLC, alongside Blight and making your minions deal as much damage as possible. No Golem though, but all the same, pretty incredible to see. We were thinking that Necromancer would have great potential in this season in regards to Bone Spirit again, and there was that new build to do with blood waves that should be great for clearing content, you know, the Undercity or say Infernal Hordes, whereas Bone Spirit was expected to be the top clearer for pushing hard content like pits because that's where it shines most. To see the Ring of Mendel focused minion Necromancer come back and be relevant but also be a top performer, yeah, awesome to see, and I plan to look into that and make a video about it very soon. So overall, what I'm saying is that Barbarian with its Mighty Throw build, you got Druid with Shred and Pulverize, Rogue with its Dance of Knives stuff, Necromancer with Minion and potentially Bone Spirit. All of these classes are pushing their builds to the top level right now towards this end of the first week at tier 90s. That's genuinely solid, the fact that everyone has at least something. What I'm not saying is that all of it works well. Like, man, the Rogue and Dance of Knives snapshotting and the weirdness what they've done with Victimize, I really hope to see hotfixes or future changes to make that more enjoyable. And then obviously Barbarian and Druid in general need some love in terms of maybe like a rework of how they work, because the player base is very small right now. But above all of those, second place, we have Sorcerer. Josh just released his new build for Sorcerer, the meta splintering lightning spear build, in which he was talking to me about it, and he's like, yeah, I can definitely clear a tier 85 with the right setup right now, but for the moment you're seeing Josh clear a tier 80 convincingly, but more importantly we have a mutual that's working on getting us some footage of a tier 96 clear that they've already achieved earlier today. So shout out to Fear, and maybe in time they'll actually be able to clear a pit 100 with the current version of the game and the way things work right now. Just like I said with Rogue though, this does require some serious fishing for the right setup in the pit. You know, they're using Era Perdition, the new unique mythic helm. So, you know, we do need a demon boss at the end for this to maximize the effect, but it is possible. And this was kind of expected. We were thinking that Sorcerer would be second or maybe third overall, with the changes that they did to this splintering aspect, where, you know, you're only able to get the 12 lightning spears out now, but it does mean you're able to do different things. Like there was hope for, say, chain lightning, but this is more frozen orb related, and this seems to be the most effective way to go, at least right now. This is good balance. Like, okay, Sorcerer has come out on top overall, but just barely, and it's not well above the other groupings. What maybe isn't so good is number 1, which is obviously Spiritborn. There's this footage on the website Bilibili, which I believe is a Chinese kind of version of YouTube, where this player is clearing a tier 137 right now. The thing is, apparently he's cleared over a tier 140 now, so that's over 40 tiers above second place and even more for the rest. That is a bit too much. What would feel a bit fairer and logical would be them clearing like tier 100s or around there. This is because, seemingly, it's very bugged. To the point where, yeah, as I was saying, it might get hotfixed. Cotton was explaining it to me today. He's our resident Spiritborn main, and it's only just been realized what's really going on. The Viscous Shield legendary Paragon node is giving damage for a percentage of max life that's barrier, but what it's meant to be is to do with your max life. 1% damage for every 3% max life. This will cap out at about 33%, but instead of doing what it's supposed to, it's calculating off of your base life instead of max life. So let's say your max life is higher and higher and higher, that increases the multiplier. So rather than being, say, I don't know, a 30% increase or something insane like a 50% increase, it's significantly more than that. It's taking the damage and doubling or even tripling it. So whatever you've got as a baseline, just doubled or tripled, it's absolutely unbelievably overperforming, seemingly beyond what they expected. And like I said at the start, because, you know, the class was only available in a small review build of a lot smaller players compared to what we would have seen in a PTR, something like this clearly got through the cracks. And And what it reminds me of is what happened with the minions in Season 4 for Necromancer. There was a new elixir added called Holy Bolts, and with minions in particular, it was proccing way more often, more effectively than for any other class. I guess just because they had lots of targets to potentially proc off allied units. So what happened back then when Necromancer was overperforming due to an unexpected bug? Well, eventually they disabled the elixir until they fixed it, and so that effect just didn't work for Minion Necromancer anymore, so its power dropped by, I believe it was like 10 or 15 tiers at the time. I would speculate that they're not going to do anything to mess with Spiritborn and how it's performing before I knew about that bug. Now, with that bug in mind, if they do hotfix that mid-season, Spiritborn is going to take a unbelievable hit. That in itself might be too dangerous or backfire, or the community might dislike it so much that they won't do it. They've had experience in the past where nerfing something that's really strong and fun has really backfired on them, and with most of the player base playing Spiritborn and enjoying this ridiculous power, maybe it'd be a bad idea for them to nerf it. So what do you think? Are they going to nerf Spiritborn? Are they going to fix that bug? Or are they going to leave it for the season? But in any case, that's our rankings right now. Barbarian, Druid, Rogue, and Necromancer generally around the same power level. Sorcerer just above that by a few tiers. Spiritborn laughing at them all, and literally a god among men. I hope this overview gives you some context as to where things are. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.